Okay, so I hope my audio and the video is looking good. Is it fine? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, see, yesterday we have understood something about the Spring security. Okay, so the basic web security that we are able to get by just adding a dependency of what we have just added a dependency called Spring security. Okay, so this dependency has ensured us to do what, it is going to protect all the endpoints that we are configuring in the Spring Boot application, or no, right? So what we have understood, as soon as you started adding the Spring security as a dependency, so if you send any request from the browser to the backend application, so let us say that this is the server. So what does it means? The Spring security is going to protect all your endpoints. So you have basically we configure many endpoints, right? So we configure many endpoints. So for the first time, okay, the Spring security will give you the login page. So to perform what? To perform the authentication, because all the endpoints are protected now. Okay, and you will get access to these endpoints only if you are authenticated, right? The very first request from the client to the server. Okay, so this is the client and this is the server. The very first request is going to be what? Okay, so you will have to authenticate yourself. Okay, there will be a login page. You give user ID and password. The password is getting generated dynamically, so you see the password in the console. So that is what we have learned yesterday. Today we will try to customize that. Okay, we will set our own username and we set our own password. Okay, till yesterday the password was getting generated dynamically in the console. In the console level, you get to see the password as soon as you start the server. The console, there will be some sequence of characters, okay, which is going to be your password that is generated by the Spring Boot. Okay, and by default the username is user itself, right? The moment you start login, okay, the moment you start login by using these two credentials, the server will generate a cookie. What server is going to generate? The server will generate a cookie. So you will be allowed to access a particular endpoint. Okay, let us say any one endpoint. You will be allowed to access a particular endpoint since the server finds you are the legitimate user. Okay, and in the response you get to see the actual web page, the actual page, and also the server is going to send the response along with the cookie, right? Yes or no? Hello? For the first time, are you getting?
Yes,
For
sir.
the first request after authentication, the consecutive request. Okay, now see, now you should understand, next time if you are sending the second request, okay, for the second request from the client side to the server side, you do not have to do anything. You do not have to do anything. The moment you start sending the request, it could be the second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth. Okay, any request, any number of requests you can send. The browser will take responsibility. Okay, if you are using the Chrome browser will take responsibility to add the cookie along with the request. The server, now server will understand that, okay, this is the user, okay, who had completed the authentication, who had just completed the login. Now the server will understand that, server will validate that. How the server is going to validate that? Because along with the request the cookie is getting added. Who is adding this cookie? Question is, who is adding this cookie? Tell me. Developer is, I mean, not server. Who is adding the cookie? Browser is adding the cookie. We're getting browser. If you're using Chrome browser will take responsibility to add the cookie. If you're using Postman has to take responsibility to add this cookie. If you're using some other browsers like Microsoft Edge will take responsibility to add the cookie along with the request. Everybody understand? Follow? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So we think that, okay, so basically now we will come to a direct conclusion that the first conclusion would be what? The first conclusion would be, right? Okay, see, cookies are getting generated. So cookie is going to take care of what? Cookie is going to protect our website. So we may think that our backend application is completely protected because of this cookie concept. Because of the cookie concept, we come to a GAD conclusion that our backend application is protected. Okay, but there is a huge vulnerability. What is that huge vulnerability? Now, one minute, guys. I'm getting a call. Okay. So what is the huge vulnerability that we have now? CSRF. I was telling you yesterday, no? What is CSRF? CSRF stands for cross-site request forgery, right? Hello? So what does it really means? We'll understand that with a small basic example, basic web security example. So what is happening behind the scenes? Let us say that you want to log into a, there is a server. The server is the bank server, okay? So we call it as what? We call it as the target site. So this target site as a URL, let us say something like www.abcbank.com. So this is the URL of the target site, and you have the source site. Source site means in the sense the request that is getting triggered from. Okay, let us say that you means client. You just want to access to this website, right? You are just opening what? www.abcbank.com, right? As soon as you hit this domain, right? So basically, as per the legacy web applications, usually how they work is, they as a request will be sent, okay, along, so you need to get validated, right? Definitely, you will be given the login user ID as well as the password, right? And the response will be like the bank server is going to send a cookie. It is going to set the cookie behind the scenes, okay? Under the hoods, the bank server will set the cookie into your browser. Let us say that you are using the Chrome browser. The bank server will set the cookie inside your browser. You don't have any idea about this. Without your knowledge, it will happen under the hoods, okay? You do not have to worry about this. It will happen behind the scenes. A cookie will be generated, okay? Cookie is what? Nothing but the sequence of characters. It gets generated. Okay, let us assume that you have just logged into your account parallelly, okay, and you are trying to get access to a malicious website. When I say malicious website, any website that is going to trick you, any website. So how we get tricked usually? Okay, if they say like you get the free software, the worth of the software is usually $1,000, and if through my website you can access it for free, you can download it for free. This is how they can trick, right? Any malicious website. Yes or no? Hello? Or if you want to get a free movie, okay, you can download it for free. Just visit our website, malicious website. Okay, this is how they trick the user, right? So by looking at this, definitely any user can get tempted, because it is a worth of $1,000 software. They're getting it for free. So what they do? So parallelly they open another tab, right? They open another tab and they try to do what? They try to download this software from a malicious website. Let us say that this website is working on a domain. Let us say that www.risk.com. Okay, for the for the naming convention, I'm taking like this risk.com. Okay, they are downloading it. So at the time of downloading, okay, there will be several pop-ups. Sequence of pop-ups get generated saying, asking you to allow this, allow this, allow this, allow this. Allow me to get access, allow me to do this, allow me to do that. Since we are under the impression that we are getting the the software product worth 1,000 rupees for free, you give allow for everything. What happens? So even you will not face any problem. But the problem here is, right, this malicious website, the risk.com, okay, they create a JavaScript. They just create a JavaScript. It looks completely legitimate. They create a JavaScript, okay, and they create a post method. Okay, post method is something like, the post method is what? The post method is always the stateful HTTP request, right? Stateful in the sense it has a body, definitely the resources will get updated. That is what the post method is, right? So they create a post request, okay, post request, a JavaScript with post request, which looks exactly like the post request that the blank bank application is going to accept. Example, so you are talking to the bank server on the one side, right? And you want to transfer money. If you want to transfer money, let us say that they are using a JavaScript with a post request. Okay, post request. Okay, so these both post request would look very similar, will look very much similar, right? But at the time of doing all this, at the time of downloading, right, what they do is they run this JavaScript on your domain, on the client machine. They run this Java instead of this JavaScript. They run this JavaScript on behalf of you. You won't be having any idea that this fake JavaScript is getting run behind the scenes, right? So, but for the server, okay, you can give any request. You can give any request from the client side. How the server is going to accept that the request is very much legitimate, okay? Okay, whatever the request you are sending from your browser, it will blindly add what? It will blindly add the cookie, right? Okay, this request is not actually from the banking website, but this is from the third party, the malicious website. Okay, so the moment you start hitting this request, unfortunately, I mean not accidentally, it happens. Okay, the malicious website is going to trick you in such a way that you send a request, but you don't have to do anything. Okay, the request looks very much similar to the banking request, right? It looks very much similar. Okay, once as soon as the request is set, the browser will automatically add the cookie. The browser will automatically add this cookie, and this will be sent as a request to the server, to the bank server, right? So in the bank server end, okay, it will think that okay, cookie is added, so it is completely legitimate, and it is going to process your request. The request could be anything. The request could be like transferring amount or deleting account, anything, any stateful request. Okay, let's say any stateful request, only the post request or put request or delete request, any request that do the modification the server side is called as what? The stateful request. Okay, your account will not be compromised, but the huge amount of data in the server side can get sacrificed, I mean can get compromised, can get breached. You may lose your amount. This concept is called as what? CSRF, cross site request forgery. You will understand? We are not going deep into this, just trying to understand what is CSRF, okay, and how the Spring Boot is going to give protection for the CSRF. We got the little briefing about what is the CSRF attack from this.
Yes.
This is what cross-site require. You do not have to go deep into this. Trust me, it is not required. We have to understand what is what. This is more than enough. It's more than enough as a beginner, as a fresher, even for the experienced candidate. This knowledge is more than enough. We are just backend developers, so this knowledge is required. So why this knowledge is required? Spring security is going to protect us. Okay, by default, this CSRF feature will be taken care. The CSRF attacks will be taken care in advance by the Spring security. You do not have to do any additional configuration. Okay, now focus here. I have said that CSRF attacks can happen only on this stateful request. When I say stateful request, any request that performs modification in the server side. Okay, can I say get is the stateful request? Hello?
No, sir.
Get is a stateless request. Why? Because it does not perform any modification. You give get without putting any data, right? It is just going to give the resource. That's it. You can't do any modification with the get request. You just retrieve the data. But modification happens. Okay, the dangerous requests are what? Post, put, and delete requests. They are the stateful requests, the stateless request. Okay, yesterday Sudhir has asked me, sir, your question will be answered today. Let us understand this. Okay, firstly, we will try to understand how to customize the login. Okay, file, new, Spring starter project. Okay, let us say Spring security one. Yesterday we have already discussed about security. So now what are the dependencies we need to add? Okay, I'm adding Spring Dev Tool, Spring Web. So Spring security. Okay, this is the popular dependency. Internally, lot of configuration will happen. You do not have to do anything. Okay, lot of code will be written behind the scenes. If there is no such Spring security, you have to write a lot of code to protect your application from the CSRF. To enable the to give protection to the endpoints. Okay, it will take almost 10 days. It's a very complex job. Spring Boot is making it very simple. Okay, finish. Okay, the project is getting created. Okay, today the agenda is will be like, okay, so we have just understood what is CSRF, and we will understand how to customize or how to give the customized username and the password. Username and password to protect our endpoints. Okay, secondly, we will also understand what is the CSRF token. Okay, these two things are very important. Okay, CSRF token and what is this? Right? Okay, the application is getting created. Ping security 1% is completed. Right, so this is okay. So let me create a small controller class, file new. What is it? Package dot controller. So inside controller, let me take a REST controller, file new class. Okay, security. Let me take student controller. Okay. So I will annotate this. I will annotate this class with REST controller. Okay. So let me take a small endpoint. So the endpoint would be like get mapping. So get mapping is stateful or stateless?
Stateless.
Stateless. Correct. Okay. So the idea is the CSRF protection will not be given to the GET request. I will tell you what is happening behind the scenes now. Okay. You will see. We will understand this step by step. Okay. Let me say string welcome message. A simple welcome message I want to display. Return okay, welcome. Welcome to security. Okay, the endpoint is / welcome. Okay, so if I run this, definitely it will ask us for the username and password as or no, because by default we have added the Spring security dependency, right? If I run this by default, it will ask us to log in, but I do not want to use the password that is getting generated randomly in the console. I want to use my own user ID and I want to use my own password. Okay, and if you see somewhere under the source main resources, there is an option called application.properties. Here you can override the default user ID and password. You can define your own password. Right. So what is the you can use spring dot security dot user dot name equal to, let us say user name is user itself, spring dot security dot user dot password. Let us say password is something like 123. Okay, now do you think that Spring Boot is going to generate the random password? It will not generate. Okay, if you understand that, okay, the developer wants to use the username as defined here and the password as it is defined here, right? So let us run this. run as Spring Boot application. Okay, it is started on 8080. Let us open that. Welcome. Right. So username is what? User. Password is what? Password is 123. Okay, now you are able to get access. Okay, because you have defined your own user and password. See, you are opening this in the Chrome browser. Okay, and also you want to open this in the the Postman. Okay, it is another client, and also you want to open this in the Edge browser. Okay, but each and every client is going to get the unique cookie. Okay, how do you want to see that unique cookie? Very simple. If you want to see what cookie is being generated by the server, you want to see what cookie is being generated by the server. Let me stop running this. Okay, simply you can add the you can accept the HTTP servlet request. Okay, let us say that this welcome message. Inside this welcome message, blindly accept the request. Okay, the request, all the HTTP requests are by default is called as HTTP servlet request. Okay, you are capturing the request. Okay, and I'm using the request object. Okay, by using this request object, you can capture what cookie that the server is going to generate. Okay, request dot, there is something like get session. Okay, the session object, you get ID. You get what? Get ID. Okay, done. Okay, now you will be able to see the welcome message along with what the server, what cookie the server is going to generate. See, cookies are a sequence of characters, right? Let me rerun this. Okay, it is running successfully. Let me open the Chrome. Now let's do the same thing. Welcome. Okay, now you see welcome to Spring Security. This is the unique cookie for Chrome browser. Okay, and for the Postman is also a client, right? Postman is also a client. Okay, even for the Postman, okay, you get the unique cookie. Welcome. Get request. Oh, did I miss anything here? One minute. Authorization, username, password is 123, no? 123. Username, password, basic we have to give here, right? And the address, let me disable this, not required. Okay, welcome to Spring Security, and this is the unique cookie for what? Unique cookie for the Postman client, right? And if you open the Edge also, I mean, what I meant to say is each and every browser will get the unique cookie. So these cookies are generated by the servers. The server will push this cookie inside the browser. On each and every request, these cookies will be carried forward consequently in the next sequential requests. Right? Now the problem is here. I said that the endpoints are protected. The endpoints are completely protected. Okay. Now what happens if I do a small modification? Let us say, so here till now we are talking about the stateless request. Okay. This get request is what? This get request is completely stateless. Okay, so let me add another class, okay, the student class, so that I want to post some data. I just want to add a class which is a student class so that I want to post some data. Okay, so my student is going to have a string private, a string name, and a private integer age, private string location. Right, let me generate constructors and getters, file source, generate constructors using fields. Okay, source, generate getters and setters. Okay, let me also keep a no argument constructor, public student. This is a no arg constructor. Okay, everything is fine. Inside my student controller, I just want to add students. Get mapping. Okay, add. I want to add students. To add, I should be using post mapping. So I am just trying to use the post mapping because the resource is going to get modified, right? So I'm going to add data to the server. Public. I'm not using the actual database. We will use the inbuilt one, in memory one, like list or hash map. Okay. String add student. So my parameter has to accept a student object from the client side, right? So I will be using what? I will be using the request body. Request body. What object I'm expecting to accept? Student object. So request body student. Right? So what I will be doing here? I want to add student. So to add student, let me take private list student equal to new. I will take a in memory variable because I do not want to use a database. I will be adding students in this variable, student variable. Let me say students. Okay, students. Okay, fine. So after accepting students from here, I just want to add students inside the students variable. Okay. Now, don't you think that this is going to get populated? Okay, you can add any number of students here, right? Okay. So after adding this, I just want to return student has been added successfully. Or else I can give a meaningful message. Student dot get name has been added successfully. Right, now look at this. Now this is the post request. Now tell me one thing. I have already mentioned to you that so in the Spring security, so whenever you add this Spring security dependency, right? So the moment you start adding this Spring security dependency, definitely all our endpoints will be protected. Yes or no? How many endpoints we have here? We have two endpoints. One is what? /welcome. Second one is what? /add. Right? So when I say protected, what does the protection means? Means the user has to get authenticated, right? Authenticated. Add welcome. Okay, user has to get authenticated, right? So it will create Spring Boot will create a login form. Okay, this is a login form. After login, okay, if you are able to log in successfully, right? So you will get access to all the endpoints. Yes or no? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Right? See, now the question. Now see what happened. Now let me stop this. Let me rerun this. Okay, it is running successfully on the port number 8080. Let me open the postman this here. Okay, welcome. So in order to access any endpoints, we need to log in, right? We need to basically log in, right? So get request. So in the authorization, the basic, you have something like the basic authentication, the basic one. The basic authentication, username and password. So we have given username and password. So this will ensure that the server will validate that the request is from the legitimate user. Okay, if I just send it on send button, you get something like welcome to Spring Security. We get this message. Okay, and we have confirmed that our endpoint is protected. This endpoint is completely protected. Okay, with what? By Spring Security. Okay, after login, after successful login, you are able to access to the endpoint. But this endpoint is what endpoint? Stateless endpoint. Yes or no? Do you agree with that? Was get method, right?
Yes, sir.
Get method. But the second endpoint, okay, the second endpoint is a stateful endpoint, which means, do you think that we have to, post a body? First thing is additional job. You have to do what? You have to post some post object, right? Post JSON object, because it is stateful. You have to post JSON object. JSON object. Why? Because the request is post request. Okay. Let's do the same thing. Go back to the postman. Right. What is the request? Post request. Okay. So what is the endpoint? Add endpoint, right? Endpoint is add. Endpoint is add endpoint. What do you want to add? You want to add student data. Right. So you are already authenticated. No need to touch this. Okay. Body, you want to add student data. Name, age, location. Let us be the name Suresh, age 21, and location Chennai. Right. But just hit this. Now what you are getting? 401 unauthorized. What are you getting? 401 unauthorized. So don't you think that there is a kind of misconception in my statement, right? So what I said, all the endpoints are protected. First I said, of course, all the endpoints are protected. Okay, after login, the Spring Boot will enable access to all the endpoints. But it is failing here, right? For the get request, it is working, but for the post request, it is failing. Why?
CSRF token is generated.
Correct.
We should add.
Yeah, here what is happening is, see, this Spring Security, the dependency that you're adding, right? It will also enable something like it will enable a security protection. Okay, first thing is it will enable Spring Security. By default, it is going to ask you for the login page. So this login, when you log in, you will be able to get access to all the stateless endpoints, which are what? You can able to access all the get endpoints, all the get requests. Okay, you can post all the get requests without any issues. But when it comes to post, or when it comes to update, okay, or when it comes to patch, or when it comes to delete, okay, so there is some exception. What is that exception? You also need to pass a token called CSRF token. Why this CSRF token is coming? Because there is a problem with this request. Okay, because this is going to modify, actually it is going to modify resources. Okay, previously we have discussed about something like this, right? The cross-site request forgery. Okay, because of this, our Spring Boot is giving protection so that this cross-site request forgery will never happen. It is giving protection against this intent, against the CSRF. Okay, so even the third-party websites who are trying to inject the malicious content, who are trying to attack your web page, right? Web page by injecting this JavaScript, by posting their JavaScript, right? So by posting their JavaScript, right? What the server will expect is, server will never depend upon cookie. For get request only, it will depend upon cookie. For post request, it will depend upon a token. The token is called as what? The CSRF token. Only if you pass the CSRF token, okay, the server will consider that the request is legitimate. Okay, the CSRF token will be asked for the stateful requests. You will understand? Not for the stateless. You will
Yes,
understand?
sir.
One, not for the stateless, it will not expect CSRF token. For the stateful request, because only the problem comes, right? Only the problem comes in modifying the resources, right? Huge amount of problem will come while modifying the resources. Okay, modification can happen, right? Modification can be done from the actual client, or modification can be done through a third-party website through this CSRF attack. Okay, so the third-party website, they just create a JavaScript, okay, and browser is blindly adding. Okay, so this this JavaScript can be created easily by the third-party website. Okay, and they can make the request to look legitimate. They can make the request to look like, why the request looks legitimate? Because browser blindly adding cookie. Browser blindly adding cookie, and the server thinks the request is legitimate, and it is doing what is actually requested for. Okay? In order to give protection against this, now the server will also expect what? Also expect a CSRF token. This CSRF token cannot be, the CSRF token, okay, the malicious website cannot get access to the CSRF token because it is hidden in the JavaScript form page. I'll show you that for you. Okay, let us say, okay, this is what there is an option called logout. Okay, so the Spring security will also give you an option to do the logout. It is asking you, are you sure you want to log out? Okay, don't give logout, just right click here, go to inspect. Okay, and you see the script, okay, elements. Okay, just expand this div tag, expand this form tag, right? And somewhere you are able to see something like CSR. Hello.
Yes, sir.
This token, this value. Well, let us copy this value. This value will be dynamically generated. Okay, this token will be generated dynamically by the server again. Again, server is generating this. But this time, this token will not be pushed by the browser. See, there is a lot of difference between cookie. Cookie is nothing but 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, some characters, a sequence of characters. The job of the cookie is to do what? Okay, cookie gets sent along with the request by the browser, right? Browser is going to send the cookie, right? Yes or no? Browser will come into the
Yes.
picture to send the cookie. But for the token, browser will never interfere for the token. For the token, okay, the user has to send, the client has to send. Client has to send this. There is no way that, the third party website, okay, the malicious website will get access to this token. Because there is another reason for that. There is another reason, is like, they are from the different domain. They are from the different domain. There is some set of validations happening behind the scenes. There is another reason for that. But there is no way that the client gets access to this token because browser is not involving this. If the browser is involved, simply they can run the script. So the browser will directly add the cookie, and the request may look legitimate by the server side. But this time the token, the browser will not interfere in adding this token. The client has to add this, or the front end application, JavaScript, whatever it is, they have to add this manually. In this way, what happens? Don't you think that we can avoid the CSRF attack?
Yes, sir.
See, a lot of exploitation happen. Okay, attackers exploit. See, because of this cookie, what is happening? Attackers exploit the trust between what? The browser and the server. Okay, what the server thinks, every request from the browser, it looks legitimate because browser is adding this cookie. But if you give the job to the client itself, okay, now the things will be completely opposite, which means such attacks will never happen. Integrity will be maintained. Making sense? So if you want to visualize this, very simple. Same thing. Okay, same thing. You have the client, you have the server. Let me help you to visualize this. Okay, I will give you understand. Okay, for get request, for all the get request, okay, for all the get request, browser will add cookie. Browser will play the key role for the get request. But when it comes to post, or when it comes to update, or when it comes to patch, whatever it is, okay, now who comes, right? Now your front end application, your front end might be running on the JavaScript. They may be using a language called JavaScript, right? So they get the token from the server, okay, and they run this inside, right? And they add this token manually, right? And this will go as a request now. This will go as a request to the server. This will go as a request to server. And this token cannot be exploited by the third party or any other malicious website. They cannot get access to this. Why they cannot get access to this? Because there is some other concept lying behind the scenes, which means what, these are from the they check for the browser browser portal, browser, what we call it as the website's protocol, the website domain name, and the website, the port number. Everything has to match. It has to be from the same site. If there is any cross site, that will be ignored. Making sense? Okay, now let us try to how to do this. Okay, see, let's go back. Go back to the postman. Okay, how to get CSRF token? Okay, I want to get that manually from the browser. I want to see that CSRF token, how it is getting generated. I want to see that. How I can see that manually? I can use the same thing. I can use the same thing. Go to the Spring Boot controller. Okay. So let me add another endpoint at the rate get mapping. Let me give the endpoint as CSRF. Okay. Public. Okay, the return type is CSRF. So you get this from CSRF token ORG security web CSRF. Right? Get CSRF. Method name is I'm taking it as get CSRF. So I'm accepting the HTTP servlet request. Every request will be considered as the HTTP servlet request. Right? And I'm capturing what? I'm capturing the actual. I want to see what CSRF token is getting generated by the server. What CSRF token is actually being generated by the getting generated from the server side. Okay, I can simply say return request dot get attribute. So inside this attribute, I just simply have to pass what? We simply have to pass this CSRF token. One minute, guys. It is stuck. I am getting the attribute value, so this is going to return me the value CSRF token. Okay, let me run this. Stopping the server. Click security one. What is the error? This one. Server has started already. What is endpoint? CSRF. CSRF. Let's see if we are getting this. Are you able to see the token generated? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you see, we cannot see. Let me tell you one thing. From the Google, okay, from the Chrome or from any browsers, okay, you cannot usually get the post request to the API. Post request cannot be it without using HTML or without using JavaScript. Okay, directly you cannot see the post request. You have to depend upon the front end applications like front end tools like JavaScript, the React. You have to depend on the tool. Okay, but we are the backend developers. We can test this in the Postman. We can test this in the Postman. Right. Firstly, let us get the CSRF token. CSRF. Let me send. Okay, it has given us a CSRF token, right? Okay, and the header name is what? XCSRF token. Let me copy this. Let me copy this in the notepad. This is what we got. Okay, now we will use the CSRF token in the consecutive request. Okay, if there is any stateful request, we will be using this CSRF token so that our request will be looking like a legitimate request to the server. Okay, next thing is I want to do the post request now. Previously it was not working. We are getting 401 error. I want to do the same post request. I want to add what? I want to add student, right? I want to add student, and this is the payload. And if you see the headers, okay, there is a tab called headers. Inside these headers, you have an option to pass key value. Okay, the key will be, this is the key, header key. Use the same key. Okay, and the value will be what? The actual token. The random number that is generated from double quotes to double quotes. Let me remove the existing. Okay. Now CSRF token, you are manually adding it. Okay. You will have to add this for all the stateful requests. It could be post, it could be delete, it could be patch, it could be what? It could be the put, except for get. Right? What is the body? Body. This is the body. Now we are able to add, right? Hello. Hello. Are you getting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, nothing else. Okay, so we are just trying to understand what is the CSRF attack. Okay, we have understood what is CSRF attack. So this attack happens only if there is no protection given. Okay, Spring Security by default, it is giving protection to the CSRF attack. First thing, it is making all the endpoints. Okay, it is making all the endpoints what as protected. Okay, you have add endpoint, you have welcome, you have the add endpoint, you have the welcome endpoint. By default, it is making all the endpoints protected. Second thing is, okay, it can give protection completely to the get endpoints because they do not do any modification to the resources. But there is a problem. So for post endpoint, for put endpoint, for okay, they are the resource changing endpoint, resource modification endpoints. Post request, put request, the resource modification endpoints. These endpoints are completely vulnerable to the CSRF attack. Right? So you do not have to do anything. Spring Security says you do okay, just give me the token. Just give me the token that the server is generating. I will accept, I will consider you our request as a legitimate request. Because I do not want to take risk. Okay, if you pass the token along with the request, I will consider you are the legitimate one. You are the right user. Okay, if Spring Security is not giving such protection, you have to write a lot of code. You have to write a lot of code to enable this. Enable what? CSRF protection. Right? This concept is applicable not only for Java. This concept is completely applicable for all web security concepts or web security fundamentals. Okay, again there are some flaws inside the CSRF production. Okay, you use what? You use JWT and you use OAuth. Okay, they are the future topics. So as a beginner, just trying to understand the basic fundamentals of Spring Web Security. You might be, you should get it, or what doubt you should get. See, our user ID and password is very much limited. Okay, don't you think that our user ID and password is applicable for only one user? All the users cannot use the same user and password, right? Hello,
Yes.
that is a different thing. Basically, as a developer, you're trying to protect an endpoint. Okay, this is the this is how you're securing an endpoint with the first level protection. If you want to give protection to multiple users, then there comes a role called what? There comes a security concept called authorization. Authorization, you need to understand what is authorization, you need to understand what is authentication. Authentication will tell who you are. Authorization will tell what rights you have, what roles you play. Which means any website, okay, can be authenticated by anyone. Just to check the user is a valid user or not. That is talking about authentication. At the same time, every website has some roles. Okay, what kind of role? Admin roles. The actions that can be performed only by the admin. Right? HR roles, the action that can be performed only by the HR. CEO roles, the action that can be performed only by the CEO on the same website. Okay, to check the actions, to check the roles of the particular user, you go for authorization. Are you able to understand the difference?
Yes, sir.
Right? So these are the topics that we will understand slowly. Okay, but these are the topic that I'm discussing is just the basic building blocks to understand the complex security topics. If you skip this, that understanding the complex security topics will be very much tricky. Right? Only Sudhir is completing the assignments. I'm not sure what is happening to